Welcome to Real Talk with Real Estate Pros, where we bring you exclusive interviews with the real estate experts. We'll delve deep into their journey to success and learn how to go the extra mile to serve their clients' wants and needs. Let's dive in. Here's your host, John Money McKinley.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the latest edition of Real Talk with Real Estate Pros. As always, I want to thank you all very much for being here, giving me a place to really dig into what's happening in the wonderful world of real estate here and around Houston. Bear with me 1 second. I'm just trying to get everything set up because Facebook likes to make stuff difficult to show to people. All right, I got all that set. Well, once again, thank you all for being here. This is John Money McKinley, and I have got a great special guest on today. His name is Leroy Cooper. He's a real estate professional here in Houston. He does work with Networth Realty, and he's known for his expertise in dealing more in the investing side of real estate. And any of you all who have listened to my show in the past and tuned in, I have a real like for working in the world of real estate investing, just because, in my opinion, real estate investing is one of the greatest ways in America to wealth. With all that said, I want to welcome Leroy Cooper here today. Leroy, thank you very much for being on the show today.
Hey, I appreciate you having me, John.
Perfect. Well, I got to ask you this, Leroy. I know you've been in the business for a little while, and you are a licensed real estate agent, and you are with Networth Realty. And like I said, you really focus in on the real estate investing side of things. But tell my audience here a little bit about what got you getting into the wonderful world of real estate. Where did you come from before real estate, and what got you into the world of real estate?
That's that's a great intro. So yeah, all that is correct. So I am a licensed real estate agent, coming up here on my 6th year, actually this next month. So previous life to real estate, I was actually in the auto industry. So I was a sales manager for a dealership here in the Houston area. Did a lot of subprime lending, a lot of loans that kind of went out on some vehicles that you could get people out there and get them moving whenever they come into kind of hardships and things of that nature that they couldn't necessarily get approved with the Ford Motor Credit or GM Financial, things of that nature. So was doing that. And one of my mentors who lived out in Phoenix was actually part of the corporate office out there. Older gentleman would come out and make his rounds about once a quarter, once every 6 months or so, and got down, sit down and talking with him. He's like, well, I'm not sure where you're at right now in your situation, but as you get older in life, kind of something to think about. Like my wife and I live off of our income, and we take her income solely, and we're just strictly real estate investment. So our end goal essentially is, should the worst happen, all of our kids are going to have a place to live. We've got houses bought and paid for off of her income, and really just hit a light bulb with me and started thinking about it. Kind of got the wheel turning. I was like, man, that's amazing. Like, that's when I grow up, that's what I want to. I would love to have that opportunity. How does this happen? So started reading up a little bit on it and started paying a little bit more attention to the real estate industry as a whole. Unfortunately, at about that time that I had started to make the transition out of the auto industry into real estate, we here in Galveston County, Harris County, obviously 2017, lined right up with Hurricane Harvey, which changed the game. Unknowingly, I didn't know any better one way or the other kind of coming into it, but it certainly changed the game as far as investments go. And came in the following year after that. So I actually started got licensed in February of 2018. So was going into a tax season in the auto industry. I was a new father at the time. My wife is a restaurant manager. We're both putting in 12, 14 hours a day. Not very conducive to raising a newborn at that point in time. And both kind of sat down and had a good heart-to-heart talk and kind of decide who's going to do what do we think is the best outcome. And it turns out that a lot of people don't retire from the auto industry. You just kind of continue to work and work and work in the auto industry. There's really not an escape there. So again, passive income, the investment side was something that I was interested in. Started doing some research and really lucked out in finding my broker down here in League City, Ricky Sparks with Networth Realty. Turns out they've been doing this for close to a decade, 12 years whenever I came on board, and a real easy transition at that point.
Yeah, the auto industry is definitely something that keeps you at long hours and is not very conducive to the family lifestyle.
Yeah, just because the doors close at 8 o'clock doesn't mean that business stops at 8 o'clock. So there's still underwriting and everything that's going through until 9:30, 10 o'clock, whatever it takes to get that deal done. Because if you don't get it done that night, man, they're the next day they're not coming back. They're going to go somewhere else where they can get that vehicle. So.
Exactly. And then with your wife in the restaurant business, that's another thing too that's not very conducive of a lot of free time to be there for the family.
Not at all. So I am not I'm not a Texas native. I've been in Houston actually for 10 years now here this last June, and we relocated down to the Houston area for work for her specifically. So when the discussion came up as far as who's going to do what and whose potential careers changing, it was a very easy decision to be made at that point.
Well, plus too, in building the passive income, that's one thing that when I'm working with people on the real estate side, even people that are just buying homes to live in, I always put that out there. Hey, if you're ever interested in wanting to dive deeper into seeing what the world of real estate investing is like, let me know. And I have had a few people decide, hey, I think I'm interested, because a lot of people, when they talk about real estate investing, I mean, it wasn't too long ago we used to have the infomercials on TV. You too.
Right. Yeah.
Boats and planes and all this other.
Get your private plane between that and the HGTV dreams on flipping houses and making $1 million on a flip, and people get excited about it. So yeah.
Exactly. And I always tell people, I'm like, you have to remember, if it's on your television, it's probably a lie, and it's probably mostly scripted. And just like you said, the HGTV, it's the same thing. That's scripted. Let's talk about real world. Let's talk about what really works here in the Houston market. Let's talk about what you can expect. Are you going to get planes and all this other great stuff? Probably not. However, you can. I mean, I have investors that I've worked with that came to me that were living in an apartment and had really nothing to show for it in the world of real estate. They now own over hundreds of single family homes. They also own multiple multi-family homes, but it's because they put their head down. They went to work. They did the correct things. And I always tell people, this is very, very important. Real estate is a team sport. You have to have the correct team in your corner. Someone like yourself, Leroy, who can help them find a appropriate single family home that makes sense for investing, because not every single family home is a good investment when it comes to real estate investing.
Yep. Yeah, this is so true. Especially, I know this was going to be kind of a topic here, and maybe this is the segue that we needed. But especially in today's market, coming out of 2023, with interest rates being where they are, you can certainly still be successful flipping houses. We do it every day. Out of my office, we've got several. We've actually got 4 offices here in the Houston area. So it's certainly possible, whether it's flipping houses or building a rental portfolio. But having that team, having just that structure in place that kind of says, maybe we don't need to do this, maybe we do this instead, and learning and having someone in your corner to kind of understand and explain the correct steps or the order of operations as far as fixing a property goes, just invaluable. So
yeah, and that is the biggest key, because and the same thing goes with picking the right location for the property and making sure. I tell everyone this. The number one thing you look for when you're buying a piece of investment real estate property is the property cash flowing?
Yep.
If it's not cash flowing, why are you looking at it?
Yeah. Again, the game has certainly changed here in this few years that I've been on board with it. But yeah, cash flow is king, is huge. Obviously, it's got to be able to make sense, or you're going to be upside down very, very quickly. We are certainly blessed in Texas here in the Houston area, where appreciation has gone up considerably every year after year after year, based on kind of a nationwide average. So that even, a borderline bad flip is still going to be a great rental. There are people moving to Texas, to the Houston area because of the industry, the oil and gas that we've got here, the availability that market rents are going to continue to make that work. It's just finding that number to make it cash flow. So.
Yeah, we are very blessed here in the Houston area with the ability to cash flow on a lot of our properties. Now, I have seen, I'd love to dive into this some more too. I have seen in some cases where the price of the real estate in certain areas has gotten to the point where I've ran the math and going, the cash flow isn't there anymore where there used to be.
Yeah. Yeah, there are certain pockets to that. The short-term market, the short-term rentals, vacation rentals, I love them. They're a great opportunity, but man, did Galveston Island, Galveston County, and certain pockets around Memorial and whatnot just get oversaturated with people that were coming in to make that quick buck. They bought in cheap, kind of during that COVID era where there wasn't a whole lot of inventory. They captured a ton of equity and just crushed it. And now you've got $285,000, $300,000, $350,000 homes that were previously renting for $1,000, $1,200 a month. That if you were to buy that house at that price point, that's a bad business deal across the board. It doesn't make any sense to carry a note at $300,000 and only get $1,000 a month in rent. You're upside down as soon as you sign that paper. So.
No, exactly. And that's where it comes back to the team of experts in your corner so they can help you analyze what you've got going on. When you have a property that you've come across, you want to have that team of experts there. Yes, you want to run your numbers. You need to have the skill and the ability to be able to crunch and run numbers, but you want a second set of eyes on that looking at it. Because we all know when you go out there to buy some things, you get the big eyes and you get all excited. Oh, this is a great deal. This is a great deal. And then you bring in a separate third party who's looking at it going, well, I'm taking a look here at these numbers, and what about this, and this factor here, factoring this in? Now, instead of making $175 a month positive cash flow, it actually looks like you're losing $275 cash flow.
Yeah, and that certainly does happen. There are a lot of investors, like I said, we're blessed here that folks are coming in that are looking to invest in our area. Out-of-state investors, or even folks from Dallas, San Antonio, that are kind of on the outside looking in, that aren't necessarily familiar with what it takes and what it actually costs to hold a rental property, to build a portfolio. In Galveston County, you're required to have windstorm coverage versus Harris County. As you get further away from the shoreline, up in Harris and Brazoria County, you're not necessarily held to that standard. But if you go from a standard insurance quote and then you tack on $1,500, $3,000, $4,000, depending, more depending on how close you are to the seawall down there on the island, all of a sudden your cash flow starts getting eaten up real quickly. And then how many doors do you have? Is it just a single door? Are you managing it yourself? If it's one or two doors, it's certainly doable depending on your W-2 or what you have going on in your everyday life. But as a new investor, if folks are coming in, I'm more than happy to kind of remind them, do you really want to get phone calls at 2:30 in the morning? Because nobody's going to call you at 12 o'clock on Monday afternoon. It's going to be Saturday. It's going to be Friday night at 7 p.m. when something goes wrong, just inevitably. So being able to kind of plug them into the right scenario and then get them in lines, get them in contact with folks that manage properties professionally, that manage properties, for a living. It's certainly worth the squeeze to take that into consideration. And then, like you had mentioned, you've got $175 cash flow on a potential property, but if you're paying $100 a door or less, preferably, just depending on where it's at, and all of a sudden $75 a door, maybe it's only $50 that you're cash flowing a month, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. I don't want to put that out there to say that that's the case. There's certainly areas in the greater Houston area that if you're breaking even in Friendswood, if you're breaking even in Pearland or League City, that's not awful. And you can build on that appreciation over the next year, 2 years, 3 years, and really do well long-term. But having that team in place, as you mentioned, just to be able to kind of point out, this is where we're at right now. Where do you plan on landing the plane down the road? So.
Well, another nice thing too about real estate is, especially in these times now, I mean, I know that everybody has been doing so great with the bestest economy ever. We're all doing fantastic.
Things have changed. Yep.
Things have changed a little bit, but we've seen a lot of people get in a crunch and a pinch to where, some things got a little bit out of line during this rapid inflation, and it was relying on credit cards for a little while. Well, that's another beautiful, nice thing is, yes, you've got your single family home that you live in that you have the ability to pull some capital out of, but real estate investors have it at a whole nother level to where they have multiple properties. If they have multiple properties, multiple access to pull out cash to do multiple things, pay off debt, go buy other investment property. And this is something that I want to let everybody know. Do you realize when you sell your property, if it's an investment, you may be liable for some tax liabilities? However, if you are still holding that property and you come to someone like me and get a cash out refinance and pull the money out, let's say you're going to pull $100,000 out of a single family home. Do you realize that that is not a taxable event? I'm not a tax consultant. I am not a CPA. Please consult with your CPA for financial decisions on equity out of an investment property. However, because you're getting a mortgage on that property, that is not a taxable event.
Yep. Yeah. You can take that money out. Someone like myself, we're a hard money lender. You do hard money loans. You lend on investment properties as well. So theoretically, you take that $100,000 out. I can show you how to turn that into 3, 4, potentially 5 cash flowing opportunities for you. And then now you've got multiple streams of income to where, should something happen, life gets in the way, one financial hiccup, it's not an emergency, it's just an inconvenience because you've got that extra income coming from multiple sources. So.
Exactly. And I can't tell you recently, especially over the past 6+ months, just due with everything going on, is I've been able to save people $400, $500, $600, $700 a month in other expenses, such as credit cards, other non-secured debt they have. Eliminate that debt. Well, my interest rate went up on my real estate. That's okay, because you're saving the money every month. Now, the interest that you were paying on those credit cards and other unsecured debt at a high interest rate, that was not tax deductible. Now you have a tax deductible event here because this is on a piece of real estate.
Yep. You've got appreciation in most areas. You have depreciation that you can show, and then you've got cash flow. And again, not a CPA myself, so certainly reach out to your CPA as far as instruction goes on that end. But there are multiple avenues as to why investment real estate makes sense. So.
Yes, I've, and just a full disclosure to everyone, if you haven't heard this before, I actually got involved in the world of mortgages because that's how I got started into it, is going to work for a real estate investor back in the 1990s. and learned so much about the world of real estate, learned so much about the world of real estate investing, that's kind of what drew me in to getting into the finance side. Cause I'm like, wait a minute, I know all this about the real estate investing now. Let me take that and apply that to the money side, because we are able to take people that have a little bit of money to invest and take that and turn it into a very nice cash flowing portfolio that can take themselves to a different level. Just like you said, give you the monthly cash flow you need where you can be at home, or your wife can be at home with your child, versus having to go to work for 12 plus hours a day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the retirement age isn't getting it's getting closer for me as I keep blowing out candles and whatnot. But the goalpost is going to continue to be moved. So if you want to retire early, you want to be able to get those passive incomes in, then real estate is a legit a way to do it. You can generational wealth. I can. Man, I preach it whenever I have new investors come in. They're like, well, we're not sure what to do, or we don't really know that. What's your end goal? What are you trying to accomplish? Do you want to retire early? Or are you trying to retire a significant other? What is your exit strategy? Like I said, my mentor out in Phoenix, his whole point of buying multiple properties with the real estate side was that my kids are out doing their own thing. If they ever need to come home for whatever reason, I've got a house for them. And that was going to be his legacy to leave behind. So.
Well, that's always another nice thing too. And that's something that a lot of people really, I hope they take away from this, is real estate is always there. It's something that you have. It's also to the fact of, guess what? If you needed a place for one of your children to go, you have a piece of real estate that is set there. And if you have bought the property correctly and done it the right way, guess what? It has equity in the property. The payments are affordable. That way, if your relative, your child needs to stay there for a little bit, I'm sure you can work something out with them.
Yeah. Again, that's certainly something that we try to push as far as you're not banking on appreciation 100%. It's great when it happens, but that's not how or why you should be purchasing the property. We're purchasing properties with equity that we can pass on to our investors to put them in a successful situation, so that if they're on it and they can flip a house, flip two houses, buy a rental property, flip a house, buy a rental property. So similar to what you had mentioned, when the time comes to sell that house, you are, depending on how long you've owned it, you are on the hook to Uncle Sam. And I equate flipping houses to working out. So as soon as you get off the treadmill, as soon as you stop working out, it's over at that point in time. As soon as you stop flipping houses, that income stops coming in. Use that income appropriately and start building a rental portfolio. So.
Yeah, that's something very important to people. Flipping houses is a whole lot different than real estate investing, because, I mean, there's nothing wrong with flipping houses. Flipping houses is a great thing. However, flipping houses is just like getting another job.
It certainly can be without a proper network, without especially, let me back that up. If you do have a W-2 and you're flipping a house, it certainly can be a second job, because you should be stopping in routinely, weekly, a couple times a week, touching base with your contractor, seeing how things are moving along. Are things moving along? Are things getting done in a timely fashion? We said this was going to be done, where a punch list is, or a timeline. Inevitably, there's going to be some wiggle room and things kind of pop up and happen, certainly. But if you have a team in place, if you're working with a licensed real estate professional such as myself that can kind of come in and kind of lead you down that path to be a little bit more successful, it doesn't have to be a second job. So it could be something that's enjoyable and very successful.
Now, let me ask you this, Leroy. We have seen a lot of changes in the economy. We've seen a lot of changes in the world of real estate. We all know what the pandemic did for the world of real estate. It really turned things upside down. It wasn't that long ago that we had an overabundance of inventory. And that's something I don't think a lot of people realize is during the last great mortgage meltdown, which I was in the business during then as well, in the lending side of things, we actually had a point where we had too much inventory. They were virtually, God, if I could go back in time, give me $100,000 and go back in time, I could really be buying some, really bought some stuff. But
real estate's like planting a tree. The best time to do it 20 years ago. Second best time
now,
today. So, yep, right now.
exactly. But I mean, with all that said, we've now moved to a time to where inventory seems to be an issue that we're dealing with. And a lot of that happened, of course, because the market reacted as it always does, knee jerk, pulls back. A lot of the builders pulled out. The money dried up because they gave out all the money easily and then went, uh-oh, we got a problem. Stuff's not working like we thought it should. They pulled back on it, which of course stopped the developing in the building, which we're still suffering from that now. We've got
still catching up.
Yep. We've still got a large increase of population. We've got a lot younger generation that's now coming online to where they're looking for places to live. And just so my audience here knows this, a lot of this younger generation is looking more at renting right now versus owning.
Mm-hmm.
They seem to live a more fluid lifestyle where they're like, I don't know if I'm ready to be tied down to something. I don't know if I want the house with the yard and the white picket fence. I kind of like the ability not have to worry about anything. So
to take that maintenance piece, to take the maintenance and then to an extent, kind of that ownership away from them.
Yeah, there's a lot of the younger generation, which is something else out there too. I advise to a lot of people is, hey, take a look at these options. Now, is real estate investing for everyone? No, it's not. However, it is something that is a very good option out there. And with all of that said, where do you see us going in the 2024 real estate market here in the Houston area?
I did not bring my magic 8-ball in. I left that one at home today, but I knew that question was coming, and I wish I knew the exact answer, because similar to you, had I known then, or had I know what was going to happen. But I think there's certainly a couple different variables that are in play right now, and the market does seem to be a bit of correcting, and a lot of that has to do with what happened the last 3 years, with COVID coming in. And then we saw interest rates drop below 3%. We saw interest rates that we honestly, I don't think we're ever going to see again. We're sub 3%, close to 2%. That's free money when it comes to a 30-year loan, 20-year fixed loan. That is free money at that point in time. So things that have happened, since COVID, when folks got the remote jobs, they started working a little bit more, from home, things of that nature. They're seeing these low interest rates, and now the number of inventory is starting to correct. Obviously, we're seeing higher interest rates, which was one thing that I wanted to kind of ask you about here in a second. And so folks are seeing 6.5%, 7%, 7.5%, 8% interest rate, and hands are going up. No, I can't afford that. There's no way I would never buy a house at that interest rate. But I think we were certainly spoiled for that 1.5, 2 years when things were below 4%, below 3%. But the new generation, this new wave of new home buyers that are coming in that did not see 7, 8, 9, percent interest rates, a decade ago, 15 years ago, when folks similar to yourself that had just got into the industry, that was a routine. 8% interest rate is, man, that's the cost of doing business. It's not earth shattering, but if you're doing it wisely, then I think you're still going to be on the road for success. So a 6-7% interest rate on a $200,000 house, $250,000 house is what it is. It's still manageable for a lot of people. But if you get into that $600,000, $700,000, $800,000 price point, that that big, that's a huge swing. 7% adds up very, very quickly. So Again, here in the market, similar to what you just mentioned, where we're at, houses are going to continue to sell. I think they're obviously the cost of building has gone up. If you're looking on HAR, if you're on the MLS, there's a fair amount of new builds that are 385, 415, 440 that are sitting probably a little bit longer than some of those builders are accustomed to seeing, or certainly wanting to see them sit on the market for. But good houses anywhere, and this is not Houston specific, good houses anywhere are going to sell, whether they're new builds, whether you fix and flip them, if you're doing the rehab work. If you do it right, nice houses are going to sell regardless of the price point. So.
Exactly. And that's one thing too that I tell people. I know some people do get a little concerned about, oh my gosh, this higher interest rate we're looking at. I tell them you need to look at what is your cost of living going to cost you. Okay.
Yep.
Let's take a look then if we're concerned about, because you've got to have a place to live. Let's be honest. I mean, how many people's parents are going to let them stay in their house forever? How many people want to stay in their parents' house forever? But the point is you really need to, especially if you're a younger person out there, take a look at the numbers, take a look at what's going on, sit down and figure out what is rent going to cost you and what is it going to give you. Then get with an expert like Leroy and myself and run numbers. We'll be more than happy to run numbers for you and take a look and see if that is something that makes sense for you. If it makes more sense for you to continue renting, I've told people, hey, now's not the time for you to buy. You need to rent some more. You need to work on some things. You need to get some things and some things worked out in your life. Buying is not always right for everybody. If people are just caught up on looking at the interest rate only, you're missing the rest of the entire picture of what's truly going on out there. Because as interest rates go up, so does the rental market as well. It's just natural. It's the same thing with inflation. As inflation goes up, the cost of real estate continues to go up.
Yeah. And with the inflation piece, $1 today is not going to, theoretically, it's not costing the same $1 3 years from now. It's the same way that the buying power of $1 or $100 or whatever, number you want to plug in there 5 years ago, 3 years ago, that the buying power is different now because of inflation. So if they do qualify, if the timing is right to get into that property, but by all means, purchase that property, go through, someone such as yourself to kind of path them down the road, get them down the path to be successful in it. So, and knowing that your interest rate might be 7% right now, but it is an election year, and who knows what's going to happen, next year, the year after, 3 years from now. What happens if you buy that house now and then interest rates do drop in the next year and a half, 18 months, 2 years? Now you've got a little bit of equity because you've been paying on that property on time, hopefully. The price of the property, like I said, your equity has gone up, and now you refinance out, at a lower, 5% or something that's going to be a little bit more manageable, a little bit easier to digest, and you continue to ride that wave. So.
Exactly. Well, we are coming to the top of the hour here, Leroy. I've really enjoyed having you on. If you would do me a favor, please tell my audience if they want to reach out to somebody and talk to them about real estate investing, what is the best way they can get in contact with you?
Best contact, obviously, I'm on Facebook, social media, not to a full extent. I do not have an Instagram. I'm of a certain age, but my number there at the bottom of the screen, 573-356-3109. You can certainly reach me there at any point in time. I do have a Facebook account on that. Email, if you're so inclined, if you'd rather do that, Leroy at Networth. Galv, as in Galveston. I'm in Galveston County, so networthgalv.com. You can reach me there. Again, phone text is probably going to be the easiest way to get me at any point in time. I've always got it on me. So.
Okay, perfect. Well, I appreciate it. If you would, once we get ready to cut the live stream, if you could just hang out in the green room for a minute. I got a couple of things I want to run by you and talk with you about. But once again, I appreciate you having you on the show today, Leroy. And everyone listening, do me a favor. Tell your friends about this show. If you like what you're seeing, please hit the like button, hit the share button, subscribe. Another thing too is we got a lot of stuff that's going to be happening on the show this year. We're going to be bringing a lot of great experts on. We're going to talk to you about what's happening on real estate in your town, what's going on in the world of real estate. And if you know anyone that is an expert and a real estate expert on what's happening in your town, please, this is my text number right here. Shoot me a text. I'd love to chat with them. Once again, everybody, you have a great day. Please remember to like, subscribe, and share. And I'll see you next week on Real Talk with Real Estate Pros. Thank you.